Welcome to our 44th podcast and our first one of 2025. Today we'll be talking about trends and predictions for 2025 and what's the one thing you can do now to make sure you don't get left behind. Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our podcast. It's 2025, and we are going to be talking about the future. The immediate future. My name is Rich Cruz. I'm an organizational development consultant, and I'm joined by my podcast hosts here, Cheryl Volpe. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Rich.
And Ben Kleinman.
Hey, everyone.
Are you two ready to dig into some predictions for this year?
Let's go.
Got my crystal
Got
ball.
our predictive seatbelts on.
Right on.
Strapping in for hot trends of 2025.
Oh, some people think they have a crystal ball here, right? And it just seems
look
to
at
change.
that.
Oh, what is that? Oh, there we are. The smiley face crystal ball.
It's like a little smiley face mini crystal ball. Perfect.
Well, let's hope that our predictions are smiley faces.
Do you guys remember the old Magic 8 balls?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think we can do no worse than those.
That's probably about right.
Can't.
I'm setting the bar medium.
Yes.
The future is ask me later.
Yeah. Signs point to no.
Or in the consulting and industrial organizational psychology world, it depends, right?
Right.
That should be one of those.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so there have been a lot of articles out there lately. A lot of the consulting firms have put things out. What are some of the things you've seen out there about what to expect in this upcoming year?
Cheryl, do you want to start? You're doing some digging.
I'd love to start. So a lot of the themes that we talked about throughout the year, for sure. And it's been very satisfying personally and professionally to see this focus on teamwork, the elevation of well-being, this reshuffling of the deck on what are the priorities to make successful change happen. Change is a journey, and the people who are involved in that change have to be at the center of it and their well-being, and not so much what they are bringing to the table, but what might they need to learn to make the change more successful too. An investment in that training and upskilling and skills to make that change happen. So that's been very encouraging to see that wave is coming in a more meaningful way.
Sure. Yeah. And I certainly, just in some of my, recent experience, can attest to there being this renewed emphasis on people working together and how they work together. And, are they cohesive? Are they getting along? Is there conflict resolution? Oftentimes we've found that that's not the case. The Society of Human Resources Management, I'm going to throw out the first acronym of the day, I think, right? SHRM, right? So they put out a Trends and Predictions infographic recently. And one of those was talking about civility in the workplace and how there has been this kind of lack of conflict resolution and how people, can work together to get through their conflict. And I've seen so many kind of experts showing up lately, writing about and talking about, working together, being ethical, and working through, how they can get through, different conflicts that occur in the workplace. So the civility conversation's been brewing for the last few months, but it was interesting that was in that prediction.
Absolutely. And the merge, just to cap on that, the merging of the analytics and behavioral science, as this KPMG report said, that is exactly what we're talking about there with that civility. The behavioral analysis is important as a systemic analysis of the organization. Yeah.
Doesn't a lot of the civility tie into stuff that we've talked about, and Cheryl, that you've written about in terms of having a place that is psychologically safe for people to have those kinds of challenging conversations, but done respectfully and done empathetically and done in a way that forwards progress?
Absolutely. In the same way, mental health advocacy, and that has come to our attention as something that is acceptable. Psychological safety is this idea that seemed sort of foreign at first and for scientists and psychologists only, but now it's entering into the workplace as meaningful. Absolutely.
Yeah. Another aspect of this whole, teamwork discussion is goal setting. Yeah. I've like just tying things more to the overall, strategic goals, and not so there's these individual goals that people have, but these work groups have to achieve some level of performance, right?
Do you see that as a little bit more ruthlessness around teams have to get things done, as opposed to just sort of sit around the table and people get rewarded, or people get their check mark just for showing up and being on camera, but not necessarily contributing? Do you feel like there's a little bit more of a sense of, okay, this team has to get some kind of thing done. There has to be some sort of meaningful outcome from this teaming effort?
Yeah, I didn't think about it being more of a, how do I put this? A motivator that was, I don't want to say negative, but didn't have this, positive, spin on it, because I when I think of goals, like, I'm thinking of, hey, we've got to achieve this. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there is some degree of, hey, we're here to work. We've got to get this done, and this is where we need to be. However, I think if you're pushing too hard, one of those other trends that we've seen is, attrition, which when the economy is good and the job market's good, we've seen that before, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also, Ben, you mentioned whether it was just as a metaphor or in real life, being on camera. This ties into another trend, and accountability. I think what you're both talking about is a certain level of accountability, and that return to work from home, that entire conversation is going into a direction that is starting to settle out a little bit, right?
Yep.
I think if we're talking trends, I think that whole forced return to office is going to completely backfire. And you already have people who, according to some of the reports we were looking at, were essentially showing up at work and doing work, but they've basically checked out and they're waiting for a good opportunity to jump ship. So in the past, people might have quit and then found a new job. There's maybe not that as much of that liquidity in the market right now. And so people are staying put, being a little more cautious in terms of jumping. And then once they see that, they're going to jump. I think that return to office, the forced return to office, is going to push that along. If the U.S. economy stays pretty strong throughout this year, you're going to see people starting to really take advantage of the jobs that are out there. Part of that is what we're just talking about, the return to office. Part of that is that whole teaming thing. Can they find an environment that is better for them in terms of being on better teams, working with better people, being in a psychologically safer space, being rewarded or incented in a better way? So all of those things kind of tie together in that sort of merging of, we're crossing the streams, we're merging trends a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Yep. Yeah. You have management that will tell you, oh, we're not going to micromanage you. We're going to trust that you're going to get the work done and all that, right? And then in the same breath, but we need you back in the office 5 days a week. And people go, but I thought you knew that I was getting my work done, and so there's some degree of trust that gets broken, when you have that type of dichotomous communication, right? Because it's like, wait, but my expectation was, it's all about expectations, right? So expectations management, to work with it's stakeholder, project management,
and managing. I think
101.
Many of the reports we've seen show that there's this divide between what a typical employee perceives as their manager being supportive and encouraging and recognizing the work they've done versus what the manager sees as the manager, him or herself, being supportive and recognizing the work that their team members have done. And there's this huge gap. I mean, it's a meaningful number of percentage points gap. And, that's going to contribute to people saying, I can go find another gig somewhere. If the mission of this place, if the people aren't meeting my needs.
Yeah. And that gap comes down to what? Communication again, right?
Communication, expectations, psychological safety,
and not sharing that in a way that resonates, in enough diverse ways that resonates with everybody, right? So now we're looking at change without the proper documentation, without the proper communication, without expectations or goal setting. Then you've got the remote situation that could, breathe in some accountability issues, right? Sure. And then if you're being forced, if the accountability is taken care of by you being forced into the office, then you're demoralized and the incentive's not there, right? So all of these things are in the conversation now. And I think that's very exciting. Leaders can no longer sweep this stuff under the carpet.
Yeah. Sure. It's like a really cool boiling pot of water, just waiting to see what happens. Are we going to get some nice spaghetti or a stew that's exploded all over the floor?
Yeah. Is it going to be a big mess on the stovetop?
Can I just pause for 1 second? Yeah. Cheryl, I'm noticing on camera you've got a purple pen.
Oh, it's true.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
We love purple in the Climate household, so that is fantastic. Kudos.
Kudos. It's a good one.
The walls in the back attest to that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do a plug for that. Like, just give everyone purple pens.
Oh, there you go. That's
yeah.
Little Shermy logo.
Now, great. Now we got to rebrand the whole thing.
Look at that.
And the purple pen, just like that.
How could people not be happy getting a little purple Shermy pen? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
It's just all a big thing.
Get on that.
All right. Well, let's do this.
Do you want to take a break and do more, or do you want to?
Yes, I do. Let's do that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the topic that everybody talks about, and we're going to do it too.
Show me the HR crap.
We could do that also, and we will. But artificial intelligence. So.
Never heard of it.
Yes, everybody. All right. We'll be right back. Dysfunctional organizational cultures and poorly managed transformations can devastate employee morale and motivation, leading to disengaged employees, poor work quality, and the loss of your best people. The impacts to your organization include high costs, low productivity, and wasted resources. At Harmonious Workplaces, our purpose is to help you build the best workplace possible. We are advisors applying proven organizational development and industrial organizational psychology methodologies to help you become your best organization. We are doers, using time-tested principles to help you execute organizational change initiatives smoothly and successfully. To discover how Harmonious Workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. And we're back. So we've been looking into the future of 2025, and we've talked a little bit about teams. We've talked about purple pens. And we've talked about the return to work or the return to office, policies and other predictions here. But you can't have a discussion about now and the future without talking about technology and specifically artificial intelligence, right?
Can.
So,
I mean, you could, but you will be left behind, as they say.
That's true. That's true. So, what trends have we seen on that front?
I'm sure we can dig into trends for weeks about AI and change management and AI and HR and all that kind of stuff. I think one prediction that I would have is that there's not going to be the same revolution in terms of AI in change management, at least, and maybe AI and HR. You guys would have to speak more to that in 2025 that we saw in 2024. I think it's going to be building on some of that, but I don't think there's going to be this whole massive kind of ground shift like we saw before. I think what we'll see is more of that continued focus. The trend of that would be that there'd be continued focus on AI literacy and recognizing that it's not just a tool that you can easily deploy, that you have to actually train people on what it can do, what it's good for, what it's not so good for, where you have to keep people in the loop. And as much as you automate things or try to outsource things to AI, that there's still got to be some oversight and caution around that. And I think you'll see people starting to lean in more of that in terms of that trend. But it's going to be a good opportunity for folks like us in the change management and OD or development world to keep helping people along on that curve.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've read about recently, and it's certainly something that companies need to be careful about, is the security of their IP, their intellectual property, right? Because when you put these, if you put company documents into a ChatGPT or one of those the other systems, right? It kind of becomes part of the knowledge base, not.
In some cases, it does, and I'm seeing a lot of companies using private models essentially.
They're on GPT,
Copilot or Notebook LLM. Those are two different models that people can use that will keep, depending on how they're set up, they'll keep your private information private, so you can leverage those in a way that's not going to help retrain or get public your super sensitive data.
Yeah.
And Ben, you do on Tuesday's Transparency Tuesday posts and the research and analytics that you do on the literature that's out there about that transparency. I believe that we're just at the very beginning of that ethical discussion on a deeper level in terms of that IP ownership. And like you said, Rich, once something gets put in there, it becomes part of the whole machine.
Mm-hmm.
The ethical discussion that I see emerging in pockets, especially in academia, is the ownership of that information that was put in there years ago that got the whole
Cheryl, you're talking about with or without creator permission.
Correct.
I mean, that was the whole New York Times lawsuit, and thousands of artists have joined other lawsuits in terms of their creations, whether it's written or spoken or video or images, were just gobbled up by the blob, and that has not sorted itself out quite entirely yet.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I was seeing, Cheryl, just to amplify, where we had the large language models and all of that being kind of refined pretty well last year, 2025. A lot of folks are looking at agentic models in 2025 and the use of AI agents making decisions and how that sort of chains together so that you can have one AI agent do something based on a prior AI agent's outputs. And all of that just spurs all kinds of risks and legal issues and transparency issues. And some folks are sort of thinking like, in some ways, how humans kind of do something and then reflect back, well, how exactly did I do that? And Rich, you're in the middle of an engagement where you're trying to document just that.
Oh, yeah.
And in some ways, people are thinking AI, all these agents strung together may not have that holistic transparency because they're all sort of individual nodes along this chain. And all of a sudden, you've bought a timeshare in Maui, and all you were doing was asking ChatGPT for vacation recommendations. It is like, whoa, time out, bub.
Sure.
And it's how do we ensure that there's transparency there? Way off topic from all of this, but
no, but it's
stuff. And I think that the legal and the risk and the financial consequences, we're way behind where all this is pointing to.
Right.
And one of the topics that you just happened to say the word insure, it's insurance and claims. And that is a very public situation right now where agents are making decisions that directly affect people's health and well-being. So, yes.
Yeah, we see that obviously in healthcare, but I think you saw that. Was it Amazon that was castigated for having HR bots ruling out people based on resume criteria that were not quite correct? I don't know. It was one of those big ones a few years ago. But all of the automated hiring stuff, that's just...
everyone suspects it's happening for sure. Yeah. I would be, maybe Amazon was one of the more that got their hands cut in the cookie jar, but I think there's a suspicion that is widespread.
Yeah. Apologies to Amazon if I got that wrong, but I know that there were some big news years back where it was like, oh, people are doing that? And everyone was just like, shocked. I'm shocked.
They won't mind. We'll be buying something from there in an hour or so.
That's probably right. The opinions expressed in Harmonious Workplaces are Ben Kleinman's alone, and Cheryl and I do not share them at all. No. Amazon, right. Please forgive us.
Please deliver Rich and Cheryl's Prime packages on time.
It's probably something on my porch right now. Thank you for the disclaimer, Rich.
Okay, well, outside of AI, one of the other trends that you brought up here, Ben, in our show notes was change management, organizational development, HR, like proving their worth and fighting to have a seat at the table, right? This is something that we see in the marketplace a lot right now, right?
Yeah.
If you look at...
And Cheryl was doing a whole bunch of research and saw that as well. So I think there's... My goodness, if two of us saw it, it's got to be a thing. But I think in many ways, there's always been this sense that if you're not making money or cutting costs, you're a nice to have. And I think there's going to be some renewed focus on that in 2025 as budgets continue to run kind of tight at many companies. And you're going to really see for change managers having to fight for their seat at the table and in some ways justify their need, justify why they're important. And it's so unfortunate because it's the underpinning of all of that. You know, we talk so much about how people are the core of any given company's engine, right? And if you have a better, more productive, happier workforce, they're going to be delivering in a better way, getting you where you want to be, driving that company forward by leaps and bounds, as opposed to having to whip the horses more. And it just seems penny wise and pound foolish to not focus on that. But I'm super biased in that respect. So yeah, I think we'll see. I mean, Cheryl, you kind of saw the same thing too, right? Where it's
absolutely. And if you take a bird's eye view of the whole system, right? So if people are looking for a seat at the table and they're not finding it, so they're quitting, right? So you've got a drain on talent, your talent retention, your best talent is walking out the door. And let's say that talent joins the solopreneurs or the entrepreneurial. Let's say that everyone thinks, you know what? There are so many tools at my disposal. I'm not happy where I am. I'm going to take what I know, my knowledge and the tools I have, and start my own consulting company, my own business, right? And then on the other hand, we have smaller businesses who are aging out and wanting to retire, selling to the bigger businesses, right? So it's a cycle of life there. And I think that change managers will. Did I use an acronym and I didn't realize it, Ben?
No, I'm just laughing in my head because we're big Disney fans here, and so in my head I'm thinking Lion King, the circle of life.
Yes, and that circle of life is based on it. It comes back to purpose, and it comes back to motivation and incentivizing and finding. Once you find your place at that table, you will work hard at that table, right? But it's finding that place. And terms like psychological safety aren't just about everyone getting a big warm hug and a weighted blanket in the conference room, right? That is a misunderstanding. Harmonious workplaces is not just about everyone singing Kumbaya. It's about feeling a purpose, feeling motivated, feeling valued, feeling heard, and working hard to make profits, to make a living wage, to have the things that financial success can bring, right? And we don't talk about that a whole lot, but it is what makes these conversations have purpose in the world, right? These are careers, these are jobs.
Right.
Although Shermy did say, not all reward has to be financial. I loved his stance on that recently.
That's true. That's true. However, when I've spoken with business owners and executives, even in the very recent past, right? It always comes down to them, how can this drive my business forward, right? And I think, that those people who are looking for HR roles, those who are, consultants that are trying to get, change gigs or whatever that is, whether they're looking for full-time work or contingent work, right? Being able to talk about how they can impact profitability, right? A big part of what we do in change management is mitigate risk, right? Which is a cost-cutting measure. And it's something that it's overlooked. When you have unmotivated people, that's a risk. It's a flight risk for your intellectual or your human capital, right? All that value that your company is borrowing from those people. It's a risk of losing that if you're not keeping them motivated and satisfied in being there, right? Because you just can't make money when you don't have that value there. And another thing that change management does is oftentimes it diagnoses these issues that people ignore, right? And it bubbles it up to the forefront. So now we actually have to face the monster, right? The
crisis
and the crisis.
No,
right?
crisis management. The other
yeah. Because oftentimes it's pushed down and people know kind of it's there, but when you have a change agent that can come in and you go to John Cotter's model, to create a sense of urgency. That's like step number one, right? Because you're uncovering this, there's this diagnosis of what's going on, and then there's the dialogue that happens there. This is what change professionals do, and it often goes from an operational standpoint. That often people just keep cycling and keep doing the same thing over and over again, but it may not. It may be costing the company tons of dough doing that, or opportunity loss. There's lots of opportunity costs there too.
I would say, and sometimes in addition to risk management, it's also a critical enabler. So if you're trying to boost your company's profitability, or you're trying to launch something in a new market, or whatever it is, gain new customers because of a certain thing that you have to offer, product or service, what have you, the change management can help your people get to the point where they're able to deliver that in a way that's consistent and above expectations and all of that.
Sure.
So it can be a critical enabler as well as just mitigating risks of, well, we're trying to roll out the system and it can't fail, so don't mess it up.
Right. Well, another thing about enablement, right? Like sales enablement, which is the revenue side of things, right? Which is a large part of where my background is marketing and sales and a large part of my change management background stems from bringing in CRM, customer relationship management systems, right? These IT systems that enable sales and marketing teams to manage their pipe flow or their pipelines better, right? That is, as much as there's a cost to that is a revenue enablement mechanism that nurtures people across the continuum. When you have salespeople or marketing people who are reticent to adapt to that change, you're risking lost opportunity cost on that. Because you may not be having salespeople who are following up with their prospects, or marketing is losing some kind of opportunity to reach out to people who are ready to buy. Right. So there's a change, having somebody who can, or a team who can come in and help manage that change and help bring that adoption from people who are early adopters, right? Helping them to bring in those late adopters and laggards that are on the other side of the change curve there, to bring them over. I think you need to have somebody who's trained and has some idea of how to do that type of thing.
And when you do, that eases up on the knee-jerk reaction to micromanage, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes a business owner is in a position of micromanaging because they don't have those people in place to manage that change, integrate the system, and motivate high adoption rates. It's all.
Yep. For sure. Yeah.
Should we take one more break?
I was just going to say, yeah.
And then come back with one or two more trends, predictions. I have a hot take.
That'd be great. Yeah. Oh, you have a hot take. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Can't wait for the hot take. All right. We'll be right back.
Oh, hello there. It's me, Charmy the HR Hermit Crab, here with some big news. I just released my very own cartoon book. It's called Charmy the HR Hermit Crab. Go figure. And now it's available on Amazon. It's packed with laughs and insights for anyone who's ever had to navigate major change, miscommunication, over-the-top bosses, or just plain silly antics in the workplace. So what are you waiting for? Grab your copy today at ShermyHRCrab.com or the Harmonious Workplaces website at HarmoniousWorkplaces.com. Let's make life and work less crabby and more harmonious. Bye for now.
And we're back. So we've been talking about predictions for 2025, and Ben teased us with a hot take. Or do we want to talk about a few other things before we get into that?
Or take another break. I thought that's where you were going because I was already exhausted in 10 seconds.
We Rich had teed up another trend in sort of a generational or cyclical kind of a change where Rich, you were seeing that there'd be a bunch of small businesses, maybe family-owned businesses, maybe just smaller businesses selling to larger businesses. Some of that had to do with the younger generation or successors not wanting to follow in family founders' footsteps, or just the state of the economy being that smaller company owners see it as an opportunity to get out and not fight in such a challenging marketplace. Do you want to say more about that? Because I think there's with any integration, acquisition, merger, there's tons of opportunity for change management, for org development, for HR professionals to lean in. Is there more to unpack there?
Absolutely, yeah. So Forbes put out an article not too long ago. Well, when was this? January. That was yesterday. And one of the predictions was that in 2025, we're going to see more small business owners selling their business. And this makes sense. I mean, look, we have the baby boomer generation. Many of them are business owners. They own small businesses. They may have inherited that business, and it might be a second or third generation business, but they may not have somebody to succeed them, right? So they may not have some succession planning in place, or just people who aren't interested in taking that over, but they want to retire, and they're in a good position to be able to do that. You also have a crop of entrepreneurs that are coming in. That I teach at a local college here, and we just had a Shark Tank type of deal where people pitched. The students, younger people pitched their business ideas, and we gave away like $20-something thousand in capital, to several of these, budding small businesses.
What were one or two of the winning ideas?
One was a graphics company, like a T-shirt type of company. Another one was these TikTok influencer type of business that it's already been established, but he had a pretty good pitch. And then we had another one that was it was a Bible delivery business. I don't remember exactly all of the details of it, but I think there were like 9 different ideas that came through,
Super creative. That's cool.
Yeah. And we're seeing a lot of that, we have the gig economy, but people who have those gigs, they could be getting their capital and then, looking at buying something bigger or getting into, diversifying their portfolio. Right. And that's one way of doing it, is to buy an existing business. The SBA will agree if you're looking for funding and you can buy something that already has, proven revenue.
It's got a customer base and income.
Yeah,
it's great.
So it's a really interesting time right now where and plus there's also venture capital companies that are buying businesses left and right, and like you said, there's all kinds of opportunity there for change. People who know how to manage change to, it's oftentimes a mistake to just like toss the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of everybody who's working at this business because you have all this institutional knowledge, right? And if you're getting ready to sell, usually they're trying to document all of that because that all brings value to the organization. So it just makes a lot of sense to be able to try to keep the right people, get the right people on the bus and keep them there. That's the old Jim Collins, good to great advice, right? But I think we have a lot of opportunity to be able to manage change effectively as we see businesses changing hands.
Sometimes there are bad babies, though.
There are.
Every once in a while, you gotta let one of those babies go with some of the bathwater. But
Rosemary's.
Yes, the devil. Yes, yeah. Those
movie reference.
No.
That one.
Exercise.
But I mean, it wasn't your fault. This could be a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, right. But I mean, look, that does happen, right? Where in those scenarios, there are people who are not doing what they were going to do, and everybody runs that risk of attrition, whether you like it or not.
And sometimes it's just a matter of opinion, and whomever is making the decisions for that change, their opinion will have the most weight.
Sure. And just to go back, I mean, that's what we have to do is throughout our careers. I think we always have to manage our own careers and be able to demonstrate that value, that we bring to an organization.
Right. We are not the bad baby.
Right. Yeah. So I've been spanked a couple of times, like,
I thought we weren't going to be that.
We weren't going to be that podcast, but I went there anyway.
You need a whole nother podcast, Rich.
Maybe. Thank you for the deep dive on small business sales. I think it will come to fruition. If you know which ones, let me know so I can invest now.
All right. That'd be super.
I've got one for you. It's called HW out on the market.
No. We're not to be sold.
No, I mean invest.
Yes, invest. Shares. Yes. Yeah.
I wanted to maybe throw something out there that was a little bit maybe controversial, but probably not very. And sort of where I'm seeing 2025 landing. Sure. In terms of, I don't see any major changes in the way change management is done as a profession this coming year.
Yeah.
And where I'm curious is, you guys are a little bit more familiar with the world of human resources and HR professionals. I don't see any major changes coming in that world either. We've talked a little bit about people using AI to help get stuff done. We've talked a little bit about different ways that we can manage change and we spent a lot of our time on a podcast last year talking about that.
Uh-huh.
I don't see anything major changing in 2025. And where I'm going is, I think there's a big missed opportunity. And I think that the world of HR and HR professionals have a great opportunity to own change management and be great stewards of people and the value that people bring in organizations, and not just be people that facilitate hiring or benefits and offboarding and things like that. I think HR is not going to step up to the plate this year. I think HR as a profession is going to miss this opportunity, and we will be in early 2026 seeing no major differences in terms of how change management is performed, and no major ownership of change management from HR as a discipline, which I know is something that we have talked about internally. We have suggested that there's a great opportunity here for HR to own change management in a professional way and really professionalize the profession, if you will. And I don't see that happening in 2025. And I think it's a missed opportunity.
It's fascinating, Ben. And you're right. We've talked.
But I'd love your takes.
Pardon me?
I'd love what you guys have to say about that, because you guys are closer to HR than.
Yeah, I've talked to dozens of HR professionals, and every time I bring this up, the conversation will eventually turn to, this is, networking or just socializing or just, getting the temperature gauge of where people work on what they're doing, meeting new people. And every time I say, I've got this vision where, HR has to break free of that reputation that it has. Make change your friend is our tagline. It grew out of how HR is not your friend in our culture, 90s, 2000s, all of that reputation that HR, and they all, it resonates so deeply. They're emphatic in agreement with this idea. But I think you are right, Ben, because what is also happening at companies like Accenture and Deloitte, they're, rather than taking their HR, as far as I can tell, rather than taking their current HR, they're kind of creating a new department, and they're rebranding human capital, and they're giving it all sorts of other names. And unless I was in that company, I wouldn't necessarily know this. And none of the HR people I know are necessarily being recruited into those new groups, but they're creating new groups that are a combination of change management and HR.
Interesting.
I think that you're right. And then it's going to take more time for actual HR professionals with all their skills and experience. They're not being invited to the party yet.
That's a missed opportunity then.
I hope that changes. If we keep talking about it, maybe it will.
I think there are. I don't disagree that in the immediate future that we may not see significant change here, but but I think discussions like what we're having now start, and this happens. Like I belong to a whole bunch of different groups, and talks about how can we be more innovative, right? I mean, that it was I'm going to misquote this, and it may not even be a Drucker quote, but as a lot of people say, Peter Drucker says, marketing and innovation are the two things that make money. Everything else are costs. And HR, I guess, is one of those other things. But the innovation part,
42.1% of people will believe that Peter Drucker said that.
42.1.
Look at you 42.1. That was that brings us back to
brings us back.
Season 1 or whatever you want to call it.
But Rich, I have to pause you for a minute. Isn't marketing one of the first departments to go when things get tight? That's
It is almost always.
So continue, but that's when I've
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, I've seen it over and over again.
For that matter.
And innovation, because there's a cost to there is a cost to that.
It is a cost, but it's penny wise and pound foolish.
Right. But I think that people are complex, and with all that complexity, I can't help but to think that there's some innovative way of making some change and just the way that people work and behave at work, right? Better, for lack of a better word.
We've invested heavily in that idea, Rich, and I think you're right.
Well,
I don't. I
this guy,
agree.
I think, we're trying to be innovative here.
I totally agree. I think it's just when you think of in a traditional corporate structure, human resources would be responsible for human capital in the same way that operations is responsible for your physical capital.
That's right.
And finance is responsible for your cash capital, your financial capital.
Yep.
And all I'm saying in my years of experience, I have never seen HR fully embrace the entirety of human capital. Mm-hmm. I don't see that changing, and I think that's a huge miss. And so maybe that's where Cheryl was going in terms of people high enough up that they see and can read the tea leaves and see the trends. They're saying we're going to scrap it all and we're going to start fresh. We're going to call it something different. We're going to bring in the people that we think we want, and we're going to try to make this a better place without trying to morph something. We're just going to create something from fresh clay, essentially.
The traditional thread that's binding it, and I would say that this, in my experience, this is still kind of new. It wasn't even, this isn't even a traditional term, I don't think. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but when I first started hearing the phrase talent management, right, I was in entertainment. So talent meant something completely different.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Right? It must, yeah.
So now
you're probably thinking
everybody's using talent.
Movie stars in cabana chairs,
right,
getting their lemonade and iced tea. And the rest of us are thinking, talent management? Am I out of a job?
Right. And so that is the bridge, right? This talent management ingredient that's retention, that's operations, that's people, that's recruiting, right?
Yep.
HR is sort of
starting in development
into
career pathways.
Yeah. So
Yep. Well, one trend that I think we will continue to see is some consolidation of HR tasks, recruitment and DEI, or now it's inclusion and diversity, and some of the other even some of the other benefits administration stuff like that being consolidated. This has been a trend for the last few years, but I think it's unchanging, like you said, though, Ben. It will continue to see. We'll continue to see some of that consolidation happen. So,
And the HR that splinters off will be in that fractional world.
it could be.
I think the HR that doesn't adapt and grow and blend into that talent optimization, recruiting and change management, human capital will splinter off to be benefits, payroll, and
Fractional or micro businesses doing that kind of stuff.
That are professional employment organizations, PEOs, that handle a lot of that stuff for smaller businesses under 100 people. Some stuff like that. So those will continue, I think, to grow. It seems to be a trend of that.
Right.
I see those often as very much service providers and not necessarily strategic partners, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Well,
I thought you were going to go on a different direction in that last second, Rich, and I thought you were going to say a trend that will not change for 2025 is that Harmonious Workplaces will still be here, and we will still be podcasting and sharing all sorts of great learnings and opportunities for folks in the change management and org development and human resources field.
That's true, but the change will be that we'll continue to grow and learn and share what we learn, and we will be bringing in a few more guests throughout the rest of this year.
There we go. I love it.
Yeah.
We've got some good topics.
Stay tuned. Absolutely. All right, folks. Well, with that, we want to hear from you. If you have any further predictions and thoughts, let us know. We would, let's keep the discussion going for 2025.
For sure.
All right. And raise a glass to y'all and make change your friend. Yeah. Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network, and remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode. To contact Rich or Cheryl, please visit www.workbalanceconsulting.com. To connect with Ben, find him on LinkedIn or visit at www.harborsidestrategy.com.